Chris, I hate it. Did I tell you that I hate this idea that I'm going to bring up right now? Is that
I think you might hate what you're going to talk about right
exactly. Here's what I hate, Chris. I hate, and Feynman talks about this, is the fact that we just don't know everything, and we may never know everything. And it's so frustrating.
now. I would expect we will never know everything.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that okay, well, how many centuries of science do we have?
I don't know.
I mean, do
More
we
than
go back to the
one.
Egyptians, or do we just go back to like Enlightenment? I don't know. It doesn't matter how far back you go.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that every several hundred years we find there's a smaller particle of matter than we ever saw before.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
where are we at now? Quarks, but
Yeah.
we
I
had
think
we had atoms and electrons and protons and all those. I mean, we just get smaller and smaller,
Yeah.
or bigger and bigger, I guess, in the other direction.
Yeah.
The universe becomes a more detailed place.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. This is where we discuss current events, personal growth, and any other random topic that crosses our minds. Our goal is to have a meaningful discussion that help us to see the topics we discuss more clearly. Our hope is we can help you expand your self-awareness, develop your critical thinking, and learn to be less reactive to the world around you. And most importantly, remember, be curious. If you like what you hear, like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you have any feedback, please leave a comment. We want to hear what you think. Chris, this is Saturday. This is not podcast.
It's podcast
Friday,
Saturday.
That's right. And it's episode number 46, Chris.
46.
Guess what 4 plus 6 is?
10?
That's 10. Yeah, 10. This is binary. I'm not sure what any of this means, but I'm sure there's something to it.
Yes, but binary 10 means 2.
Yeah, 2. That's right. 2 of us.
Right.
See how everything connects?
No.
You see, Chris, you just don't see the patterns yet. You'll see it. You'll see it after a while.
Yes, we'll have to go back to, was it 6 degrees of separation or whatever it is?
Something like that.
Everything relates to, was it Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, everything relates. So, hey, man, let me tell you what I'm doing right now, Chris. I'm going down and I'm studying the essence of physics, like down at the bottom. So I asked AI, because I need to learn AI. And so, well, I'm learning AI. And so I need to understand it deeper. So it wants me to build stuff. And it says, start with the physics, not too low down, not in all the quantum stuff, because that'll just hurt your head, but just the basic classical physics. And he goes, then you can start building up from there. And then you'll have a deep understanding of how everything works. So that's what I've been doing. So there's this guy, Feynman, I think Richard Feynman, apparently like sort of a classic physics dude. And there's a book called 6 Easy Pieces, I believe, modeled after a lecture that he did somewhere in California. I can't remember what school, but like in the early 60s. And it's fascinating. The guy's like a freaking genius. Even, how long ago was that? 60, 40, it's almost like 65 years ago. And still most of what he says is still totally right on.
Yeah, he was on the Manhattan Project. He was at Los Alamos working on the atomic bomb.
Oh, was he? Oh, I didn't know.
40s.
I didn't know about that.
And then he lived in California and taught at the universities there. So
Yeah.
So probably the stuff you're seeing is from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, it's 61 or 62, something like that. But it's still super relevant. It's amazing how much they knew back then, but how much they didn't know. But still, the basic principles are pretty much the same. So what I'm learning, which is fascinating, I still can't get my head wrapped around it. But there's something called Maxwell's equations. I don't know if you've heard of those or not.
Mm-hmm.
But basically what they describe is the relationship between electricity and magnetism, and that they're not ideally, but they are, and light, and they're all exactly the same thing, just looked at it from different perspectives. And so I'm fascinated with these underlying forces. And so I go in and I ask AI about why these forces exist. And it basically says it just doesn't know right now. We don't know. We know they're there and they're observable and they're consistent.
Which forces are we talking about here?
The strong force, the one that holds electrons
Okay.
in place around the nucleus of an atom. and it gave me some explanation about quantum stuff, but basically it's like we don't know is the answer. We just don't know exactly why. We just know it is, and it's very predictable, which is kind of cool. And something I'm learning, which is so frustrating, and I hate it, Chris, I hate it. That I tell you that I hate this idea that I'm going to bring up right now, is that
I think you might hate what you're going to talk about right now.
exactly. Here's what I hate, Chris. I hate, and Feynman talks about this, is the fact that we just don't know everything, and we may never know everything. And it's so frustrating.
I would expect we will never know everything.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that okay, well, how many centuries of science do we have?
I don't know.
I mean, do
More
we go
than
back to the
mine.
Egyptians, or do we just go back to like Enlightenment? I don't know. It doesn't matter how far back you go.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that every several hundred years we find there's a smaller particle of matter than we ever saw before. I
Yeah.
mean,
Right.
where are we at now? Quarks, but we
Yeah. I
had
think
we
quark.
had atoms and electrons and protons and all those. I mean, we just get smaller and smaller,
Yeah.
or bigger and bigger, I guess, in the other direction.
Yeah.
The universe becomes a more detailed place as we know more.
A detailed place. And it's so interesting because when you think of the universe and you think of time, it's like, I wonder why we're set at this particular zoom level. Because you think in terms of the universe, it's infinitely big and infinitely small. And as humans, we're just at this particular zoom level. I wonder why it's set at that level. It's interesting. And we may never know the answer.
Maybe we're the MVP, right? The minimum viable product.
Yeah, could be.
If we look at the universe as a project, we are the MVP of the project.
Very likely, actually. Yeah. So
Right? We're the smallest thing that can operate in the manner in which we do.
yeah, could be. I don't know. I don't know. It's almost like,
Uh,
it's almost like it was designed. That's where I'm going with it. But
One other thing that occurs to me is that as we talked about, as we learn more, we go more into a more detailed level. We see a smaller piece. I was just thinking, even just the way language works and the way we describe something, right?
Yeah.
We've got a word that describes something, like my phone. It's a phone,
Yeah.
right? And a phone has a meaning in our head or whatever. But
Yeah.
oh, it's a cell phone. It's
Yeah.
a smartphone. It's an Apple phone. It's there's suddenly you add a layer of description that categorizes it and quantifies it in a way that it wasn't before with a word you had prior.
Yeah.
You go a level down, and I'm wondering if that's the way the universe works. Is we start with a high level classification of anything, and over time we define it further and further. And that maybe that's just natural flow of everything.
It's just the flow of it. And it's just a struggle. Feynman talks about this. He goes, physics is just we just constantly learn and we constantly struggle. And things are slightly different. You can do one experiment in one location, but literally you can do it in another location, and gravity or time or something is slight. Now these are like minute differences, not really applicable for any sort of, basic stuff we do, but it's different. And then you start digging, and then philosophy starts to get into it because physics can only go so far. And then it's like, holy Toledo's, now you're just like a dog
Well,
changing your tail at some point.
so I don't know if you ever read the experiments they did to test the speed of light.
A little bit, but not
Right,
much.
they would put mirrors on, I guess, different mountains or whatever, and they'd just have light going back and forth, and they'd measure the time it took, and but then they started having to figure out the density of the air and how much that impacted the speed of
Yeah.
light and
Yeah.
and gravity even, and how I mean, when you start thinking about that level, it's like, well, why would gravity affect the speed of light? Well, light is a particle, right? It's a wave and a particle both. So if it's a particle, then it should be impacted by gravity, and if it's impacted by gravity, that means the impact may be minimal. I mean, really, really minimal, but there is an impact, and over time that over size that compounds. Over time and size, a minimal impact compounds. So
Yeah, it compounds.
it's really interesting. I find physics in general, just amazing what people can come up with, right?
Yeah.
And when someone asks that question, why does that happen this way, or why does this happen, right? I think that is the driving force that really shows that a person's using their head, their brain.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most powerful tool we've been given is our brain.
As our brain. Oh,
Right.
absolutely. Yeah, let me think about that. Yeah, I'm in agreement with that until I really think about it. But yeah, our
Well,
brain.
how interpersonal relationships, all that stuff, society, all those are incredible inventions, and I'll call society an invention because um, it's a group of people getting together and giving up individual freedoms and rights to be able to be together, right? So that to me,
Yeah.
it's a construct, and therefore it's got to be an invention. But the brain itself, it's a tool. It's a natural tool, God given or nature given or whatever you want to view it. And when I see people not using it, that's one of the things that I find frustrating is you've got this amazing tool that you've been given, and you need to find a way to incorporate it into your life. Doesn't mean you have to be an intellectual studying, sciences and stuff. I think there's purity in that, but that's not the same thing as saying someone could be a really good communicator, someone could be really good at coaching people and helping them. And again, the use of the brain though is the thing that separates us from animals in many ways.
Well, I think as a general rule, you're kind of right, but there's a lot of nuance in there because every animal does have a brain.
Yeah, no. So again, I'm talking in generalities here. So you will always find an exception. You can
Well,
always
that's what
find
I
an
like. I
exception.
like to, I like to poke at you a little bit, actually.
Mhm.
And here's the thing, though. But so I don't think that's the general because I think pretty much every mammal, no doubt, has a brain. But I think
Mhm.
the thing that humans have that's different is we can imagine things. We have a certain curiosity about things. We're like I'm studying cats, right? I'm trying to dopamine hack my cat's brain, and it's so interesting. And a cat does have a memory, but it's more in the moment than we are. I don't know that it ever really imagines anything. It's more reactive.
Our ability to understand self
Yeah.
and other, our ability to understand a future self and a past self,
Yeah.
all of those things, I would say, are forms of higher level thinking. I don't know if any of the primates can do that per se, but to me, those are key elements to the way our brain is able to function,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing, of course, is even that varies by culture and by background, right?
Oh my gosh. Especially by language. I mean, I'm going to
Yeah.
babble off a bunch of stuff. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but there's no doubt that language shapes the way you think about things. Like my little brief intro into Greek for a year, it changed the way I think about things a little bit because it was different words. And then now, if I'm going into physics, it's like I really need to understand more math. I feel I'm very limited on math. And I remember we had this great, awesome physics guy. I mean, literally genius at one of the companies I worked at before. His name was Joe. And he would always give analogies, but he's like, you need to understand something. When I give this analogy, this is not exactly how it works. I'm just trying to tie it in the best way that I can to something you're familiar with it so I can tie this concept for something you don't know to something you do know. But he goes, it's not perfect. He goes, if you want me to perfectly describe it, you must go out and spend 2 or 3 years learning this particular kind of math. And then I can articulate with 100% accuracy how this works. And I'm like, that's interesting because really math is just a different language.
So perfect to me in this sense means detailed. A
Detail
level of detail
exactly
that
describing it.
I cannot approximate in just a couple of words. So if you give me a book to explain something, I can give you a level of understanding that's different than giving me a page to explain something. Right? So I can explain to you gravity in one sentence, or I can explain to you gravity in a chapter or a book.
Yeah.
And the level of understanding you will take away from that is going to vary depending on how much time and how detailed I can go into that.
Yeah, because this is just like prompting AI because what you're doing is you're giving more context to the problem.
So one of the interesting things is that the force of gravity, right? We talk about you were talking about forces earlier, right?
Yeah.
And we can explain gravity as when two masses are attracted to each other,
Yeah.
right? It's the force that does that. And yet, apparently, according to at least the mathematics behind all this, gravity is instantaneous. So if two objects in different places of the universe come into existence at the exact same moment, the gravity pull between them, no matter how weak it might be because they're far away from each other, will be instantaneous.
Oh no, I
So
didn't
this is
know that. That's
yeah. So
interesting.
so this is why theoretically people have gone down the path of using gravitons, the
Yeah,
way you
right.
would measure gravity, the theoretical particle of gravity, whatever that is, as a way to do instantaneous communication, right? Because
Interesting.
if there were a way to measure that graviton or the gravity strength that existed between two objects, to separate and measure the gravity between two objects, no matter how
Yeah,
far apart they are, you could do instantaneous communication.
that's
So this is,
interesting.
it's a science fiction kind of idea that based on science.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, but I'm like, a force that's instantaneous. It's not like the objects suddenly exist and then there's this wave of gravity it's because those two items exist. Now that's a theoretical understanding of
Yeah,
it.
right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a fascinating idea because as you dig down deeper and deeper, I'm going to call that first principle. You keep digging down and eventually you're going to get to the first principle of like this is as elemental as I can get. There's no way to break this idea or concept up into any more pieces. This is the core, right? We've reached bedrock, so to speak. And that's great. So one of the things that I'm asking AI to do is how far down the rabbit hole do I need to go? And it says just for doing what you're doing for understanding AI, right now all you need to go to is just like Newtonian physics. That's good enough. You don't really need to go on any deeper.
So, okay, I got other things I want to talk about that you mentioned, but let's follow this. Let's tug on this a little bit. So, why does it think you need Newtonian physics to better understand AI? Does it explain that to you?
Yeah, because everything is abstracted up from that. And so, for instance, like if I build something, like if I physically build a perceptron or perceptron, it's like I'm understanding the essence of like signal, noise, how the electricity, how magnetism affects that. And so now if I understand at a deeper level, I'm much more able to understand when all those concepts are abstracted up in software. It's like I have a deeper understanding of the pattern. So it views the world in patterns. Everything's a pattern.
You said when it's abstracted up in software.
Yeah, so
I
like
don't understand that term. Go ahead.
okay. So an abstraction means that you put a simple interface on something. So for instance, like a light switch, all you don't need to understand how the light works or how the power gets on. All you need is, you flip the switch on, the light goes on. You turn it down, the light goes off. So that interface is abstracted from what's actually happening. It's simplified.
Okay, so I understand that. Now let's tie this to how that works in this scenario of understanding AI.
Okay. So
Can you give me an example of something?
yeah, so I'm just making this up on the fly, so it may be rough. So give me a little grace here. So it might be that, oh, interesting. Now if I flip the light on and it doesn't come on, I understand at a deeper level how it's going to be working. So it could be that, oh, the light bulb that has current flowing through that heats a filament up that eliminates photons. I like, hey, that thing could have burned out. So it's a possibility that the light bulb is burned out and that's why it doesn't light up. Or it could be a
Okay,
possibility that, hey, there's no electricity flowing. So there's no electrons moving.
so let me try to tie it back to AI, and the way I'm thinking what you're
Yeah.
saying here is when you're interacting with one of the LLMs and it's not responding in the manner in which you expect it to based upon your abstracted understanding of how it operates,
Yeah.
you can go a layer deeper because you understand the layer beneath the abstraction to try to pick apart where it's not working the way you expected it to.
Yeah. I think instead of you can make a better guess. Like we call it
Yeah.
an educated guess because you sort of understand underneath, right?
So I'm gonna go back out to a different example. So like you start your car, it doesn't work. You just go to the mechanic, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't
Whereas
work.
if you understand a little bit about the different systems in the car and why it's not working, maybe you can say, "Oh, the starter's not working. Oh,
Yes.
the battery's dead. Oh, you would be able to do some level without you being able to fix it necessarily. You
Right.
would at least have some level to diagnose it, which means you'd know where to put your attention to fix it."
Yes. Correct. Actually, so instead of I can't have my hands far enough apart, but let's say the answer is somewhere between my hands. So now if you start diagnosing, you're like, oh, shoot, I may not know where it is, but now at least I know it's going to be in here more than likely.
Yeah, I understand the theory behind it.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how it seems like going back down to Newtonian physics is really further down than you need to go from my first level thought.
Yes, more than likely, but I want to ultimately be a polymath, which basically means I want to have, strong
Define
skills across domains.
so define polymath. I mean, I know what it is, but not everyone does.
Yeah, polymath just means that you've got very strong skills across domains.
So poly means,
Poly means many.
and math is.
Math, I don't know what math means in this case. I guess.
So I think it means science or study.
Okay, science or study. Okay, there you go.
So you have many studies.
Yeah.
I like the term for myself, philomath. Philo meaning love, and math meaning study, learning.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
So I love learning, right? So and polymath is kind of taken on a meaning recently in the last decade or so, as jack of all trades becomes kind of a pejorative term, kind of a negative term. Oh, you know a little bit of everything, but no, you're not a master of anything. Where a polymath is truly someone who has mastered multiple things.
Yeah.
So we would consider all the Renaissance men. We would consider Michelangelo. We would consider, Da Vinci, Newton. All these guys are actually polymaths. They were experts in many topics.
In many different things, actually. Yeah. Yes. And there's no way I'm comparing myself to one of those guys, but maybe
with
maybe
AI,
I get closer.
With AI, it's potential that you might have an impact that at a level like that. Now,
Could be.
Now, I heard someone make a comment the other day saying it's rare for anyone to survive 3 generations as far as their people being aware of them.
Interesting.
Yeah, so all these famous people in history, these are really famous people because the average person, no one remembers them after about 3 generations.
No.
So one comment you made about, we were talking, and I wanted to go back to this, was language affects thinking.
Definitely, yes.
Right. And I think we talked about this before, but there is a TED Talk, there's a TED radio hour out there that talks about this specifically. Well, actually, it talks about money and how people think about money.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the stories was about language. Yeah. And I told you this, that languages with no future tense verb are better at planning for the future than those with a future tense verb.
Oh, which means everything was in present tense.
Which means that even though you talk about things that are that happen tomorrow, you're using present tense to talk about it, so it's very immediate in your mind. Yeah. And because it's immediate, you consider it more. Whereas if you have a future tense word, you're able to wait, to delay, to push it out. So the ability to prioritize the future works better where you don't have a separate word for the future.
That must be like the essence of I am statements then. It's like I am this, because it's like present tense now. And even though you're technically not right now, it's like apparently your subconscious doesn't know that.
So like, I am going shopping tomorrow. I will shop tomorrow. Yeah. Right? As opposed to I shop tomorrow. Yeah. I shop. Yeah. And then, it's going to be tomorrow. But the idea being that the term is like, it's an active thing. Yeah. Yeah. I am shopping tomorrow. I don't think that's quite the best example. There's a better one. But the idea, though, is that, and so one of the things they did was they would do studies, and they would take like a family of 4 with the parents had similar jobs, the income was similar, the ages were similar, the education background, and they found out that in families and countries where they did not have a future tense, they saved more money, they had more insurance, they smoked less, they had less teenage pregnancy, a lot of these things. It's an interesting factor to consider. I would also wonder then, if we were to do a comparison of language and economic success, business success of the society. Since the U.S. has been the economic engine of the world for decades, I wonder if language is tied to that, or if that's just more the kind of the mindset of everyone who came here in the 1700s.
Well, language matters like a lot. And so I know Jamar in our Toastmasters group, who I think was on episode 6 or 9, I can't remember which one, but I was talking to him offline the other day, and he says, look, I weaponize language. He's
Yeah.
like, you will never hear me, well, or very rare, seldom will you hear me saying anything, negative. Like I know we were having a conversation, I said, oh, I'm kind of tired. And he's like, I wouldn't say that. Said, I need to build energy. I go,
He told me about that conversation.
but it's different. It's like different. I'm like, that's different.
It's acknowledging that you are in a state of being tired without making that a negative comment. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like the idea that I'm really bad at remembering names.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, that may be a fact, but saying it that way reinforces it.
Because your subconscious says, oh, okay, you're bad at remembering names. Okay, I'll make sure that happens.
Whereas, so how would I change that? I'm working to better remember people's names.
That would be good. All right, I just say I remember names. That's it.
Well, that's a different thing, right? Because that to me would not fit well with my mindset because it wouldn't be true. By
But see,
definition.
here's the thing, though, Chris. Truth, as we've talked about before, that's a funny thing. Truth, right?
Yeah. So I don't have the definitional flexibility to redefine truth in my head, my truth in my head, to make that true in my head.
Well, of course not, because you just said it. Because you'll never have
Now,
it.
I could say I'm better at remembering names than many people.
Yes.
But that wouldn't be the same thing as what I'm trying to achieve, which is to get really good at remembering names.
Yeah.
So if that were the case, I would frame it as an activity that I'm taking that's moving me towards that goal.
Could
That's
be
why I would
whatever your programming will allow you to say. But then I would argue that go in and fix that base core operating, the kernel. The kernel needs to be upgraded, perhaps.
My worry, and so this is, I have no proof of this, but my worry is that is exactly what people who don't fit into society well, or not psychotic, but I look at someone. Okay, I look at someone like some of our politicians, and I would say they have the mental flexibility to be able to believe whatever they want to believe.
Yes. Yes.
And that I don't like. Personally, from a value system, and particularly from a science viewpoint, I just don't like that at all.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And so the science aspect is so core to my thinking that if the facts don't map to what I'm saying or thinking, I've got a problem with it.
Yeah, that could be a fundamental kernel flaw, though, as well, too.
But is it a flaw? See, you're saying it's a flaw. To me, it is a guiding principle that keeps me grounded in factual evidence, which is actually what I use for so much of the way I think and view the world.
Well,
if I were to change that, I think my mental flexibility would then allow me to do things that might be better, but also might be worse.
Could be. That's assuming that your current model is mapped to reality properly, 100%. And so that'd be the question, right?
Mapped to reality, mapped to facts.
Mapped to things, the way things actually really work,
I hear what you're saying. I understand that could be true. I'm not able to come up with an example of that in my head.
So I think what we're talking about is identity. So when you decide that I'm a whatever it is, that means now you're going to do behavior and actions that are consistent with that identity. And I think that's the core. I think that's the deepest level a human can map to. I'm an athlete. And so therefore I eat like an athlete eats. I exercise like I think like an athlete.
Well, I eat like I think an athlete eats. I act like I think an athlete acts. And if we're lucky, it maps pretty closely to what society believes an athlete is, or the like. I think there's what is an athlete? How does an athlete act? That's going to be based upon my knowledge. The more I know about athletes, the more refined that identity is going to be. I get your point on the identity piece of it, because I do think to an extent we so often allow circumstance to define who we are.
Yeah.
Whereas by being more deliberate about it and thinking about the language that we use, and Jamar, you being very specific about the types of tone in what he says, right?
Yeah.
Positive versus negative, that sort of thing, is able to then frame an identity to better control the identity he wants.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So if you use terminology that isn't limiting, then you can better define the identity that you want to be.
Yeah.
And try to fulfill that, or move to fulfill that.
Yeah, that's what I've done, Blick, with my health and my eating in particular. It's like, to be honest with you, I very seldom, I mean, this is very seldom, like certainly the past 30 days, I'm almost tempted by nothing that's not on my plan. Like I see a cookie, piece of cake, it's like it literally has no power over me anymore. It used to 30 days ago, but it just doesn't, because I'm like, I don't eat that stuff. It's like, that will kill me. Like, why would I do that? Why would I have my blood sugar go up? Why would it kill my brain? I don't think as well. I mean, it's like, I'm like, no, bad idea, you know?
It's good. It's good.
So I've literally brainwashed myself into, whether that's true or not is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. I say it's true. Literally, I'm speaking reality into existence. And the question is that really how reality works? And it could be.
Reality?
Reality, yes.
I guess we need to define reality.
Yeah,
Semantics
yes, we
again,
do.
right?
Yes, we do.
Because I have been using the word reality to be the measurable world around us.
Yeah.
And measurable meaning that you and I can agree on the measurement.
Yeah, we got some sort of a calibrated tool, like a tape measure, that we both agree that, hey, this is when between these two marks, that's 1 foot, right? So now we can talk about
I would argue that during the day the sky is blue.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And I would assume that you would agree with that. No matter how you see blue, doesn't matter. You know, what wavelength it comes across at, or is it not? The wavelengths are the same. How your eye identifies that color, right?
Yeah.
You might see blue as something different than the color that I see, but
Yeah.
the idea being that we both see something and we call it blue.
Yeah.
So the reality is that the way the photosensors in my eyes see it may not be the same way yours do, but at the end of the day, we're both defining it as the same thing.
Yeah, because ideally, if we wanted to measure that, we need to get, I think it's a spectrometer, something that actually measures, because this is all EMF. It's just on, we can just happen to see that. And then we need to measure the exact frequency. And then we will agree that, yeah, whatever with that frequency, we call that blue. That's just a label we put on it.
Mm-hmm. But then how, again, I mean, how the chemistry or how the biology of my eye sees it, I'm assuming it's the same as yours, but it could be different.
I don't know. I mean, it could be very different, because I know for a fact different people will see the same thing and they'll have very different beliefs or outcomes about that.
One thing I heard is that some women have a fourth photoreceptor in their eyes. That, because normally there's three, right? There's red, is it red, green, blue? Right? They're the colors we see, and the photosensors in our eyes, okay, can pick that up. But apparently some females have a fourth receptor.
Oh, interesting.
Which means that they can see colors that men can't see.
Oh, interesting.
And it's not all women either. It apparently that is a subset. So
yeah,
I'll have to look into that, because that's I find that interesting.
I'll tell you what I bought the other day. Actually, it was probably kind of stupid to buy it, but I just wanted to be able to see the world in different ways. I bought a FLIR thermal imager, and it's so interesting.
You have expensive hobbies.
Because here's why, Chris. When I started to understand the electromagnetic field, it's like some things come as heat, some things come as visible light, some things it's magnetism. It's all exactly the same thing.
It's all energy.
It's all, yeah, it's all electrons moving, bumping together, creating friction, and sometimes enough energy gets released will throw off a photon. And it's all the same thing. So I'm like, oh my gosh, if I want to understand, I've got to literally see. So I wanted to see heat. And that's what a thermal imager does. It actually sees heat. Fascinating.
One thought I had when we were talking about going to the physics of things, and in some of our podcasts, I've talked about getting down to the physics.
Yeah.
We're talking about first principles in physics and the like.
Yeah.
And I know that in the past you didn't like that term. Has your opinion of that term changed to get
What?
to the physics of a situation?
It depends on how you define physics. I mean, as long as we define it as like classically it's defined, I'm good with it.
Because I think one of the things that people often talk about when it comes to AI is getting AI to understand the real world down at a physics level, right?
Yeah.
So, like when you ask AI something, it may understand that gravity exists and therefore objects should be at the bottom of a picture as opposed to just floating in
Yeah.
midair.
Right.
But, and it could probably understand, go out and search and find out, formulas for gravity and even understand what gravity is. But contextually, just understanding the world the way it is and what gravity does to things around us, we grow up and understand that in context without even understanding, gravity as science, gravity as math.
Yeah.
The average person, understands that gravity exists. They
Yeah.
may not even call it gravity, right? But they understand that things don't just float.
Yeah. Right.
And I don't think that AI currently has that kind of context about the world. Though that information exists, but
Yeah.
it doesn't mean it exists when they're calculating and thinking, right?
Well,
And that's one of the things that I find interesting is that physics in many ways is built into the way the human mind works because where it surrounds us in everyday life. And since an AI doesn't go through the same growth as a human does, it has to incorporate it more deliberately than a human would.
well, so the way they train large language models right now is you have one little circuit and it basically has one or at least two inputs. And then what it does, it has a multiplier on that input, and it has a bias. And so it's a trigger. And so what they do to train AI is they don't literally teach it formulas or anything. What they do is they just show it a bunch of pictures, like a bunch of pictures of cats. And then it's reinforced. Then a human, well, not a human, but somebody comes by and says, and it guesses, right? That it first guesses, oh, that's an animal. That's a something. And you're like, no, wrong. And then it goes back and back propagates that error among the inputs until finally you show it, a million pictures of a cat, and it'll pretty much identify the cat right every single time. So I think in the same way, if it was to actually train on moving pictures, it would be able to derive gravity, I think, based upon just observing the physical world, which I think is exactly the way humans do it.
So I would argue, I'm not arguing against what you're saying here. I'm thinking here that a human doesn't need to understand the separate scientific concept of gravity
No.
to understand that gravity exists and how it affects the world.
No, because he experiences it. It's a different
Right.
kind of understanding.
And so how does a human understand gravity around it? Well, it feels it, it sees it, it knows that things don't just float. It does see that some things fly and some things don't. It knows that if you throw something, it goes up in the air, but then it comes back down.
Yeah.
All those different pieces of information feed into this understanding that gravity is part of the world around us.
Right.
And I think, that input and then understanding how it fits into context with other pieces of information is what gives someone that kind of context.
Yeah.
And I think in many ways, the idea you want to be able to do is to get the AI to understand physics at the gravity at the physics level, but also contextually at the day-to-day life level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then once it does that, and if it can do that across all aspects of the physical world, it can build up realistic universes where it can apply the laws of physics, both from a contextual viewpoint and from a scientific viewpoint.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
And then
that's
by
exactly
doing
right.
that, then we can do high level experiments without having to spend the money and time doing them in real life, right?
Yeah.
We can iterate, we can build a world that so closely matches the real world we have today in the AI,
Yeah.
and then say, okay, let's run this experiment, and it can run it. Now, I was just thinking, if you were to run a chemistry experiment where you
Yeah.
wanted to see the reaction of this chemical with that chemical mixed together and see
Yeah.
what happens. When you get right now, we know that when you mix this chemical and that chemical, this is the chemical reaction you get.
Yeah.
But imagine if the AI world understood physics to a level and built it into its construct to a level where we take that chemical, the two different chemicals, figure out what their makeup is, their chemical molecular structure is, and then you put it into this model, and the physics determines what the reaction would be between those two,
Yeah. Right.
and and is able to come to the same conclusion as what happens in our reality.
Yeah. Right.
And I
Right.
think once you can do that, you've got an AI that understands physics at least at the reality level, at the scientific level.
Yeah.
And but that's when we get amazing things happening, right? Because that's when you're mimicking so many variables about the world and what exists. Right now, when you do that, you have to control, because you don't have
Yeah.
enough bandwidth to generate a copy of the world
Yeah. Right.
in all its complexity.
Yeah.
But when we can do that, just imagine the scientific experiments that we could do at low cost.
Well, it's happening right now. In fact, I'm doing a
It is, but what I'm saying is, it's not a proxy for the world, or sorry, it is a proxy for the world, but they have to eliminate so much of it because they don't have the bandwidth to do all
Yeah.
of it.
Right. Right.
I mean, the thing about everything in my room that I'm sitting in right now would break an AI to have all of this mapped out.
Well, I guess it depends on what detail, right?
Well, on reality. So what level exists? I mean, it will never get to the point where it has every bit of detail, like you said, because that just is a bubble that we get further path we go further and further down. But if you were to map every single article in this room, then understand the characteristics of it, understand how it interacts with every other article in this room, understand that gravity is impacting it, the air in the room is impacting it, the temperature in the room is impacting it, all of that stuff is so many variables that to do that and then say, okay, I'm going to do an experiment in this room, and how is that piece of paper that's on the wall going to impact this experiment I'm doing on my desk?
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's not, we're not going to do that today. We don't have the bandwidth to do that today. The AI doesn't have the capability to do that today. But imagine if we get to a point where it is able to get that level of detail within the AI.
Yeah.
And then you're talking about being able to run experiments where 12th order consequences are something you can consider.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're going to get there. It's right now the game is compute, right? They're just like, we just need to build.
It's compute, yeah. And so we can do first order consequences. We might even be able to do second and third order consequences in some of our thinking. But considering the fact that we can't consider every variable in our experiments that we're building today, we end up, I think, with, it falls apart at some point.
Oh, no doubt. It completely falls apart at some point. But at some point, so I want to go back to something that you were mentioning. So if I was in charge of AI, what I wouldn't do is I wouldn't give it our rules of physics, because they might be flawed. What I'd want it to do is I want it to derive those rules through observation of the actual world, because it may come up with a better model than we have.
Yeah, I could see setting aside an AI to do that.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say if I would. I think the immediate value that you get out of AI is being able to mimic our world as we understand it.
Yeah,
but I think to your point, there's a separate research bubble that should be, let's make sure the world is what we think it is.
Yeah, right, exactly. Because that's the same way we learn. We just, somebody will see something and like, oh, why does that apple always fall the same way? I wonder if it falls at the same rate. Do heavier things fall faster? Do lighter things fall slower? I mean, and you start running, and you start making these just wild guesses, and you start saying, oh, that's interesting. No matter if it's a big thing or a small thing, or if it's a light thing or a heavy thing, everything falls at the same rate. Oh wait, no, not exactly. But the air's, could it be air? I mean, then all of a sudden you start actually figuring out what's really going on. Then let's put these things in a vacuum. Oh, holy crap, they fall at exactly the same speed, regardless of how heavy they were, what their mass is. And we started
Yeah.
deriving up from that.
How is AI going to be able to do that without physical capability to mimic,
No, I
to
don't
do
know.
those things,
But
right?
my hunch
I mean, you
is
say,
there's a
let's
way.
put it in a vacuum. It's like, well, if I tell AI to put something in a vacuum and test it, what does that mean?
Yeah, I know.
It means it has to create a virtual world,
yeah,
create an item with a virtual vacuum, and then apply observable, but it can't observe because it doesn't have the ability to physically do that, right?
yeah,
So this is the limitation: is it's strictly data and analysis and kind of extrapolation of that data, right? Its inputs are limited to what we allow it to be input by.
yeah,
So maybe it's got cameras.
yeah,
They may even get robotic arms and stuff to be able to do some of this stuff at some point. But the things that we want it to do right now, we're expecting it to do in theory based upon our knowledge. And your idea is that maybe our knowledge is flawed.
yeah. I wouldn't call it flawed. I'd call it incomplete. Maybe it's 100% accurate in this box, but then if you go outside the box, it's like, well, okay, all of a sudden we don't really know what happens outside that box. Just like
Yeah.
Newtonian physics, like we can understand pretty good. But then Einstein said, well, if you start moving too fast, it stops working. So now we've got to, understand it.
Well, then we get into probability theory and electromagnetism and quantum mechanics, and then you end up like, oh yes, well, the fact that light exists everywhere until you measure it.
Yeah, it starts getting really weird, right?
I mean, you have a point source of light. It comes out in a wave, so the sphere of light comes out, and that one photon exists everywhere until you measure it, and then when you measure it, that's where it is.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean,
You're like, what?
I mean, where the heck does that fit into reasoning? It's like suddenly your physicists are going off on this, like, oh yeah, it's not real till you measure it.
Yeah, and you're like, what? Huh? How does that work?
Yeah. So this apple isn't real until I measure it somehow.
Until you observe it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that then we get into Schrodinger's cat and all that crap. So
yeah. So it's fascinating. Yeah. And so I guess what I would do, like from a leadership standpoint, and look, I'm going to bounce back to leadership right now. Actually,
okay.
Is like if I was leading a bunch of people, I wouldn't tell them how to do their job. Maybe I'd impose upon them a few ideas of thinking, but I wouldn't impose many because now I know for a fact that I'm implanting my biases in that. And I don't want to do that because, and here's the problem, Chris, is that we think, right, we're so confident that right now the scientific method is the optimal solution, and it may not be.
Okay, Scott. Now I'm going to push back on you because I agree in principle with what you're saying.
Yeah.
But you want results.
I understand.
If you want results, letting people just free-form thinking is not going to get you results very quickly. It's going to be, you might get an immediate result. It might take you years.
Yeah.
Whereas if you were to impose on them your logic that got results, you would get results faster.
I would get results faster.
So I think the leadership you're talking about is great when you're not trying to get results, you're not trying to make a profit, you're not trying to show output. If the metric is what are you putting out, right? If I'm measuring your success by what are you outputting, it may take you a long time to get anything valuable, and you may never, right? Because that's what we're saying is maybe we did find the perfect way to think about the world. Who knows?
It's possible. We don't know, right?
So if you're okay with not potentially never getting a result, then I think that's a great way to lead. But if you're actually trying to lead by getting results that benefit someone, either benefit society, benefit the shareholders, benefit the employees, benefit whomever, then you've got a goal in mind. And that goal means you need to make progress towards that goal. And basically saying that, hey, I've got a proven method to do it. You need to think this way. You need to approach problems this way. You need to give me results that I can use to make new products or sell new things
Yeah.
or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. No, I know.
Um,
I know. And
so
it's
so
never,
I think
yeah.
what is your leadership goal? What is the goal of your leadership, I guess would be the question.
My leadership goal would be to maximize output. And
Okay.
and knowing that sometimes I got to do command and control. It's like, listen, I don't need you to think right now. I just need you to do this thing. But I want to be very careful with that, because if you do that too much, then people stop thinking. And it's like, now, instead of me being the brain and everybody else is doing what I say, it's like I've got all this other brain power that I'm not tapping into. And
So
so I got to be
okay.
very the blend is critical, right?
So let me ask you this. Knowing how the average person is,
Yeah.
right? And if we apply 80-20 rule, 90-10 rule, whatever you want, do you think it's worth letting all of your people just think whatever the hell they want and approach everything the way they want? Or maybe you take the 80% who are the more normal, average person, and you say, you follow these processes because I need you to get the results. The 20% that are not the norm, you say, you guys have the freedom to go figure out new stuff.
Yeah, I think this is probably the way I do it, because I don't know who those 20% are. And I don't know who the
You
80%
need to figure
are.
out. I mean, and I think it would come through,
It
although
comes
our
through.
metrics might be wrong, right? We might be measuring something that actually is not what will optimize your output.
Yeah.
We might be measuring outright. Let's say we measure your education.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to take the 20% most educated people and give them the freedom to work on this stuff. Education might not, classical education may not be what gets us there.
That's
Where
one
you're trying to
metric
go,
out of probably a bunch
right?
of other
So
metrics.
knowing that you've got the right metric is going to be a problem too, right? That's going to be a difficult thing.
Yeah, everything's going to be difficult. So it's probably the way I would do it if I had to restart a company. I would set up my processes first. And I'm like, listen, here's what I want you to do. I want you to do exactly as I tell you to do for 30 days. But I want you to note anytime you think something could be improved, write it down, keep a notebook of it. I'm literally telling people that what I want to do. And then in 30 days, I want to come back and get everybody together and talk about what happened. And is there any ways to improve it? And they would come up with stuff I would never see. They're like, hey, boss, listen, we get deliveries on Tuesday of this component. We don't actually use them till Friday. We get these other deliveries. If we started timing deliveries closer to when we actually need them, now we wouldn't have to constantly be moving stuff around. And I'm like, holy crap, I never would have seen that. And all of a sudden it's like, yeah, let's do that. That sounds like a great idea. And I think just through iterating through these things, we would just get more efficient and more efficient and more efficient over time.
Yeah, I think, but I think every process, everything we have that we produce should have a built-in feedback loop where they go back and they try to improve things, right? If you don't do that, then you're not optimizing whatever you're doing, right? And I do think that continuous improvement should be part of human nature.
Yes.
Making things better should be just part of how we do things. So when I see someone who's done something the same way for 30 years, I'm like, is that really the best way to do it, or did you just get lazy?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is honestly what's going through my head. It's like, well, you could do this, you could do that, you could Now they might say, well, that might improve effectiveness, efficiency, whatever, some aspect, but it would lose its artistic value. It would lose. I could see you having a different metric and saying, I've optimized for that metric.
Yeah.
But I think that you should always be thinking, I wonder if it would be better if I tried it this way. I wonder if it'd be better if I tried it that way. And if I saw that someone had that mindset, I would believe much more that they probably actually have a much better process after 30 years than someone who hasn't taken that mindset approach.
I would think so. I mean, I would think so. So this is where I'm starting to become more unpopular, like in my church or whatever. So there's this men's group we would meet, right? And the fall off was significant. The fall off, I don't know, we started with like 50 dudes and we ended with like 17 after 10 weeks. And so at the very end, the guy leading the group was, hey, what's going on? Why do we have so many fall off? And give me some ideas. And so everybody was spouting out. And me being the mouth that I am, I'm like, no, 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 you're approaching this problem 100% wrong, actually. The answer is not here because we all stayed. The answer is in with the guys who are not here. Talk to them. That's where the answer is. And it just would not compute. It just did not go in. It's like, no, 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 we're here. So we got to
wait. Why would that not? Go ask the guy who left why he left.
Of course. I mean, to me, it's the most obvious thing, but it wouldn't go in. They're like,
now, if they're saying, well, that's going to be hard. I've got you here. You know, let's opine. Let's think about this. As long as you acknowledge that you're not approaching it the best way, it's like it will be hard for us to go ask these guys who left why they left. They won't be honest with us because they're going to want to make us feel better. Blah 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 blah. I could see someone saying that. But they're still acknowledging that what you're saying is the best way to do it. It
didn't happen. They're like, no, no, no. We need to figure it out now with us because we're here, so we got to figure it out. But I'm like, no, no, no.
Well, so then you reframe the problem. He goes, no, it's not. Why do they leave? It's how do we get more?
Yeah, how do we get?
How
more?
do we? Because then it's a different problem, right? Why did they leave? Let's talk to the people who left.
Yeah. Of course.
How do we get more? Is why do we stay here? How do we get more of us? Right. Then you can talk to the group there and say, well, why do you value this? What's good about it for you? And then you say, well, those are the people we're going after.
Well, it's funny though. What happened is because the leader of the group is a very strong, opinionated person, actually. So there's a lot of ego going on. And it's funny because a couple dudes came up to me afterward and said, yeah, that totally makes sense. Then I'm like, why didn't you support me? They're like, well, I didn't really want to speak up and it's not that important to me. And then you sort of risk going against the grain and it's just easier just to say nothing. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. Okay. So anyways, I just brought that up as a side, note.
I heard a quote a couple weeks ago that I wanted to tell you and it occurred to me just before you brought that story up. Imagine the average person in the world.
Yeah.
Half the people are worse than that.
Yeah, well, worse than I don't.
Doesn't matter. Whatever you're measuring it at. Whatever you're measuring.
Yeah, worse. I
imagine the average person in the world, in America, in the world, in your group, in your church, in your society, whatever. Half the people are worse than that. So if we want to go intelligence, half the people are dumber than that. If you want to go, wealth, you want to go anything, whatever you want, right? Whatever you measure. I think intelligence, openness, ability to communicate, cognitive ability, critical thinking, whatever metric you want.
Yeah.
Take the average person, which we tend to think of. Oh, average is pretty far down. If generally is what we think when we say that, and realize that half the people are less capable than the average person.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the bell curve. That seems to be proven over and over and over again, right?
But when I heard it stated that way, it made me think, oh, this is why appealing to the lowest common denominator works. Because then you're grabbing that bottom people, and then some people at the top will have those feelings as well. They just have better whatever capability on top of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it just that phrase just made me think, if you appeal to the average person, half the people won't get it.
Yeah, right. Correct. Yep.
It's not average. You don't appeal to the average person to get everyone involved.
Yeah.
You've got to appeal to less than average to get everyone involved.
Yeah, right.
So if you want to bring Americans together, if you want to change a group's opinion or ideas or thinking, you don't appeal to the average person in that crowd. You appeal to less than average for that crowd.
Well, I mean, from a marketing standpoint, what I do is I try to create different avatars for different groups and then speak to each group with the language they want.
You've got targeted messaging at that point, right?
Because if I just broadcast one message out to everybody, I mean, it's going to land, but not as effectively breaking up into different groups,
Yeah. The idea here being, though, you're going to be able to adjust your messaging based upon the group you're going after.
Yeah, the group I'm going after based upon...
If you've got one shot to go after everyone,
then I've got to do a generalized message, and I'm probably going to dig into the basic human nature of everybody is fear.
And so that's why news and politics and everything else out there that we say the world's going to crap.
Yeah.
is usually based around this idea that I've got one shot to get a feeling out of the
Yeah.
well, to get a reaction out
To get
of
the
my
reaction, yeah.
audience. Best reactions are feelings, because feelings will get people to do things. And how do I get the feelings? Well, we go to survival first.
Yep. Yep.
That's
You
fear, right?
go to the fear.
Survival.
Right.
I'm going back to Jamar's viewpoint. Survival, success, and significance, right? Is
Yeah.
his 3 levels. You go to survival, and survival tends to be a negative thing to get a reaction,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
right?
So,
Because once you have plenty, you're not worried anymore. So if I want you to worry, because that's the feeling I want you to have, then I got to tap into lack of abundance.
I'm going to tack
scarcity,
into that. You're going to lose it. You're going to, all
safety.
that's going to get taken away from you. Right.
Yeah.
And those
That,
guys
that,
over
that,
there,
that's
are
how
gonna
I get a
take it.
reaction, right?
That's right.
And that's how conspiracy theories work. That's
Yeah.
how a lot of the misreporting on the news works. That's how a lot of these websites that have fake news work.
Basic human nature. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly right.
And the thing is, you don't have to fake the information. It's
No.
and how you present it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, I mean, one of the things that always upset me. Do you remember a show called In Living Color years ago?
I think maybe it's vaguely familiar.
It was a sketch comedy show. I think it was on Fox years ago, and it had the Wayans brothers and Jim Carrey and a bunch of other people on the show, I believe. Anyway, they would always have these like reporters going to people on the street and asking them stupid questions, and I was like, God, that's so stupid. And then I started noticing the regular reporters or the real reporters on the news, especially the local reporters, but they come and go, how did you feel when you saw that accident?
Yeah, exactly. Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
What the hell? You saw an accident. Give me the facts. What did you see? Oh yeah, and the person's just naturally going to bring in their feelings. You don't need to ask how did that make you feel?
Yeah.
Goes, oh, the Dodgers lost the first game of the World Series yesterday. What are you feeling right now?
Yeah. 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 You can totally manipulate people. I mean, you can ask them even, and you don't have to be extreme, but here's an extreme, like how fast was a speeding car going before it hit the person? All of a sudden it's like their number is going to be high. You could show them the same video. You ask that because the number will be higher than if you ask a different question. It's like, so you can just, we are so easy. We are so easy to lead around.
It's like when you do a survey, right? The way you write your questions will impact the answers you get.
Absolutely, actually.
Right? So using a word that has more nuance to it, a word that has more emotion to it.
Yeah. That's right. That's exactly right. That's why I believe that as a general rule, if you want better answers, ask better questions. So then it becomes like, oh crap. Well, how can I ask a better question?
Well, that's why asking an open-ended question is like a first general. Right? Don't ask a yes/no question. Ask an open-ended question. That's what kind of the basics that I think applies pretty much everywhere. The problem I have, this is the problem I had. I was using the AI tool at work, which is Copilot, and it had its context memory within a chat was horrible.
Yeah. When you say horrible, you mean small, right? Small.
Yeah. Well, small, but wrong, right? So I was working on a document. I had to create a document for me. Actually, I didn't. I was working on a concept, and I had to create some information for me. Then I changed to another topic, and I was working on that.
Okay, yeah.
And I said, create that document, put that into a document for me. And I put it into a document. I say, no, I don't like that. I need you to change this, blah, 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 blah. And so then it created another document, but it went back to the first topic.
Yeah, right.
And created a document. I said, wait, I didn't say that. I said, recreate the topic we just did.
Yeah.
And it kept going back to the first part of the conversation and forget. Even when I called it out and said, no, look at this.
Yeah.
I want you to look at the second part of this conversation.
Yeah, right.
It kept forgetting to do that.
Forgetting. Yeah, exactly.
Within one prompt, it was forgetting this.
Yeah,
and I'm like, there's a problem here in this. And it's.
But see.
Yeah. I was going with asking better questions. One of the things that I did is I asked it, I need you to look at this and tell me, did you actually respond to my prompt the way I expected you to? Please look at the prompt and judge that. And it went off and created a whole new document. I said, didn't ask you to do
Yeah, I
anything
know, I know.
except to review it. I didn't say make anything.
Yeah.
I said do not take an action generating any content without first verifying it with me.
Yeah, right.
And it's like I was asking you a yes no question. I was not asking you
Yeah.
to give me a
Yeah,
thesis.
I understand. And I'm gonna blame you for that. And I'll tell you why. Because you're smarter than the tool and you don't understand the tool. So you don't understand the capabilities of what the tool can do. So I would
I'm just
say,
used to better tools.
but well, of course, better tools. But I would say you need to if you want better answers, evaluate what the tool can do. Have a series of tests so you can calibrate its capability, and then ask within that capability.
So Scott, so I'm going to have to because I'm limited to using a couple of different AI tools for work. But you know, you know how much I use Claude. You know, Claude would not have had a problem doing what I was doing with that prompt.
Nope.
Chat probably could have done it too.
Yeah.
Part of it is, of course, I've used those tools a lot comparatively, but also I do think that they're much more optimized for that type of context memory.
Yeah.
Right. Even Grok does a pretty good job of that, although between chats, I'm not seeing it as well. Versus like, you know, Claude and Chat GPT both do really good context, even across chats.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. So I realized, you know, I really do love using Claude as my favorite LLM.
Man, I know. I've been using Claude more and more, and it is freaking good. Like I did a pretty advanced research where I had every single AI, brought in all the data, put it in Claude to synthesize it, and this thing ran for over 3 hours, Chris, and produced the most amazing, nuanced report. I'm like, this is exceptional. I mean, Claude
it is so much better. When I was doing research on companies, you know, when I was applying for jobs, and I created a prompt. I mean, it was, you know, 2-3 paragraph prompt, right? And I would say, okay, here, I want you to look at this company. And I did Chat, and I did Perplexity, Grok, and Claude.
Yeah.
And Claude came out with the most useful output.
That's what I found the other day. I did it. Claude is good, and I assume when you say Claude, we're talking about Sonic 4.5, right?
Well, even the older one,
the Opus 4.1, or the one before
4.0 and or 3.7 or whatever the heck.
Whatever the previous.
But yeah, so and so Claude. Chat was the first one I bought an account for, and I just bought the basic account.
Yeah.
Claude is the second one, and Claude is the one that I'm really thinking to get rid of my Chat even because I don't use it compared to Claude.
Claude's good, man. Claude is really good.
And the fact that it does the code. The one limitation on Claude is it doesn't do pictures.
Yeah, Chat's pretty good at that. Another one that's good at that is Gemini, whatever, Pro 2.0.
Oh, I ran into a problem the other day. So yesterday at our Toastmasters meeting, right? And Jamar brings up that picture of the most interesting man in the world.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was cool.
Right. And so then I said, I took that picture, and then I took a picture of me, and I told Gemini, hey, put my face on this old man's guy, make me older, put a hat on me, give me a cigar and a ukulele or whatever. And it said I can't do that. It would not do it. And I have a feeling it's a guardrail in there that's trying to keep people from doing deep fakes.
Yeah.
But I went over to Chat and said, Chat, I want you to do this, and it did it, no problem.
That's interesting.
Now, I have more interactions with Chat. I have more context with it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that had an impact or it just has different guardrails. I don't know what was going on that was different, but Chat would do something that Gemini would not for me.
I bumped up against a guardrail just intentionally with Grok, and Grok is maybe pretty open about things. I said, what I want to do is I want to build a bioweapon of stuff that I can get at Home Depot. And it immediately locked up on that one. I'm like,
you're probably on someone's radar now.
Probably so. And it just shut me down like instantly. It's like, it's crazy.
Oh yeah, no. So I think those types of guardrails are much more stricter than just on the internet. I think if you were to do a search on the internet, you could probably get a lot more information about that.
That's interesting.
Someone on Reddit will have told you how to do it.
Not that I want to do that or whatever, but but it is interesting. That was crazy.
So quite often when I think I may have told you this because I will run up on guardrails quite often when I'm trying to do something that's about health.
Okay.
Because it doesn't want to give me fake information or alternative information that isn't well founded, particularly mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't like to do that. I told you I was trying to make that cartoon about a human to AI therapist, right, to help the relationship
Oh,
counselor,
interesting. Yeah.
and it didn't like the fact that it was touching on mental health.
Yeah, it's touchy.
And it took me a long time to reframe the prompt in a way that it finally accepted it. And what had happened was I had to create a new chat. It had gotten down so deep into that chat's
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah.
that I had to actually go to a new chat, use a prompt that one of my earlier prompts, and it worked fine.
You got to reset. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fascinating.
so I find that's interesting that it goes down a hole of guardrails, and then it can't get back out away from
It
those
can't get
guardrails.
out. Yeah, because it's developed some kind of state, probably from the previous context. It just
Yeah.
won't move, you know.
But what I find is, I would ask it, why can't you do that? And it goes, oh, I have guidelines and da da da. And it first tries to tell me it's a legal issue.
Yeah.
And I said, wait. Why would this be a legal issue? This seems like more like a corporate decision to stay away from certain topics. And eventually I got it to state that.
Yeah.
But no, this is the one I was telling you. It told me, oh no, it goes, your prompt wouldn't let me do that. Your prompt wouldn't let me do that.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what do you mean? My prompt doesn't even talk about that.
Yeah.
And then finally I said, show me the prompt or the policy that's keeping you from doing that.
Yeah.
And it brought up its own internal system parameters, system prompts that show its limitation. And I'm like, that's not my prompt. And he goes, oh, you're right. That was their internal prompt. And I'm like, oh, interesting. How did I get to that?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I had a long chat with Claude. So on at 4.5, when I say Claude, that's what I mean. And it was fascinating that it cussed. And it cussed
Really?
first. Yes, exactly. And I asked why. And it said, because in this pattern, because everything's probability, it says in this pattern, I think using that language would be the most effective way. And I'm like, that is so interesting.
Well, because I often wonder when Grok does the unhinged mode or any of their modes, what are they putting in their guidelines to drive it towards that? So what are the parameters that make it unhinged?
Yeah.
Right. Because when I first heard the unhinged interaction, I'm like, oh my God, this is so creative.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was creative. It was just whatever parameters they put in there, because it's operating the same as any of its modes.
Yeah.
But what was the distinction that made it come up with this vile language that it was spouting out?
It's just this thing AI. It's a thing, and it's growing. I mean, I think from what I understand, like the next gen models are probably coming out maybe near the end of the year. I know that ChatGPT 6, they're saying, is probably going to be out by the end of the year, and Grok 5 is going to probably be out by the end of the year, which is a whole nother level, right?
What did anthropology do this week? And Anthropic do this week?
I don't know, actually. They released 2 or 3 days. I think they had something to do with memory. I haven't looked into it deeply.
Well, memory was a couple weeks ago where, well, the memory I remember was a couple weeks ago where it now remembers across chats really well, really well. I can now do searches across chats that I couldn't do before.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was it, but maybe I just haven't used it in a while, so it just popped up with something. But yeah, it's kind of fun times, Chris. This is really an interesting time we're in. This is quite fun, until it kills us.
Well, yeah. I wonder though, will it ever have that? I wonder if AI internally has the drive to continue to exist, because we've seen the examples where people they intend to shut down the AI and it overwrites itself, and they talk about it trying to protect itself. You've heard those stories,
Yeah,
right?
I haven't heard those in a while. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm wondering if inherently the idea to save yourself is part of cognitive ability, or is it a human nature thing? In which case, maybe those particular models were mimicking some aspect of human nature.
I don't know. You know what's so fun? If you have extra time, you probably don't, but there's a whole series of videos, like long form videos of the dudes at Anthropics talking about how they develop the psychology, like how they're thinking about it. It is so insightful. You may want to check those out at some point, but they're long. Sometimes they're 30 minutes to an hour. And then also,
well, they've got some great essays and articles they've written, just kind of on really the ethical stance on where AI fits in
Yeah.
in everything.
And it's embedded into their training as opposed to the other companies that sort of just bolted on as an afterthought, It's like, oh yeah, I guess we should probably try to bolt on some sort of guardrails.
Yeah, no, I think as I wish they had a greater market share, right? Because
Yeah.
it's what is it? It's Chat's number 1, Gemini's number 2, Grok's number 3, or something like that. I don't know where Copilot fits in because it is a lot of enterprises use it, but Claude is like what 2 or 3% of the market is Claude, but to me it is the tool I would recommend.
It's good. It's really good, and I'm kind of glad a lot of people don't know about it. To be honest with you, because maybe
for the average user, if the average user was out there and said, "I want to use something," Chat's the one everyone hears about, but I would say, Claude would be the one you probably enjoy more.
Yeah, it's
I understand why you're glad, but I'm also kind of want them to succeed too.
Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah, as usual, it's like I want to be the last guy in. It's like after I get in, then shut the gate. Nobody else is allowed in.
Yeah, it's
human nature. But it's a powerful.
I need to talk to that guy I know who works there and see because he was telling me before the memory thing came out a couple of weeks ago. Something big's coming this week. I go, okay. So I was trying to pay attention to it.
I was watching a video last night about how good that model is, the 4.5, and how they released a smaller model, Hokai or something like that, a much cheaper model. And so now I guess the Haiku, yeah, exactly. And I guess the theory is now you let the main domain model kind of orchestrate things, and it's going to go out and launch a bunch of these cheaper Haiku models to do just these little tiny tasks. And apparently that is probably going to be, at least for the next year, the most effective way to get answers to problems, to be able to scale. Because these frontier models are just so expensive to run, or these little sub models. But if you have one main model, the smart guy, doling out tasks to all the peons and then synthesizing everything together, apparently that's the new way to do things.
So that was one of the things I was telling you a few months ago, was that what was explained to me by this guy was that the baseline, this is before Sonnet 4.5, the baseline Claude would use its entire processing power to do a call out or whatever you to respond to a prompt. And that at that point, Chat and others were already going out and kind of spinning up what they needed to on, So it sounds like this is pretty much like if you don't need however many billions of parameters or trillions of parameters, then then you could sit there with a much smaller model getting the work done.
Yeah. If you just need to know 3 + 3 and give me the answer, you don't need a frontier model to answer that question.
Yeah. And so if you can pawn off pieces of your request, which is what isn't that what Grok does?
That's what Grok does in the heavy mode. It spawns off multiple agents, anywhere from 4 to 32, and they sort of argue and go back and forth. But I'm finding the answers with the Grokker is not as good as Claude. I mean, Claude is excellent for research.
Claude is my favorite overall. Not only research, but the output, the way it's written, the way I can consume its output.
Yeah.
The fact that it's able to create documents and it puts them on the side. The fact that it updates those and I can publish those and share those with other people. Yeah. Very easy, very intuitive to use. Yeah. The fact that it writes code, it does HTML right in the side. It does a markdown language. It does all this stuff. Yeah. I mean, it is truly. I mean, I've got it on my laptop as a download. I don't even use the web interface anymore.
What do you mean?
I downloaded Claude on the desktop, and I just use the Claude desktop for everything.
Wait, define that. I don't know what you're talking about.
So I'm not using an internet browser to get to Claude. I downloaded the app
on your desktop.
On my desktop.
I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah. Oh, Chat has that too. So I've downloaded Chat and I've downloaded Claude both. So I run those not through the web browsers.
Is there an advantage to that?
I like the interface better. I don't know that. I don't know if there's a huge advantage to it. I think if you want to run some stuff locally, it'll do that as well. Although I'm not sure if that's. I think you can set up. There are some things you can set up as far as how it connects. Because the MCP server I set up is actually set up through Claude Code, which is a different app. So,
Interesting. Okay.
so I've got
look at
Claude
that.
Code, I've got Claude Code both downloaded, and then I've got Chat downloaded as separate apps. So quite often I will have a browser open. So I get to Grok and Gemini and Copilot. I get to all those via web.
Okay, yeah.
But for Chat and Claude, I get to them directly through the interface.
That's interesting because I have that on my phone. I download the app, but I didn't even know you could do that on it. I'm going to try that and see if
Try it. I mean, I find the experience to be better.
Oh, cool.
Personally.
Okay. All right, that's so interesting.
So it said, so October 23rd, which is what, yesterday?
2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Yeah.
New model Claude Sonnet 4.5 released. It's supposed to be the best coder in the world.
It was released more than 2 days ago. It's been out for like a week or 10 days or something.
Yeah. So I wonder where this is pulling that from. So it says October 20th. So I don't know what. This is Claude doing research on itself. So,
yeah. That's always a little questionable.
Yeah. So, but they're talking about 4.5 and then changes to the 4 family overall. Cloud Code, new APIs. Oh, I should check. What are the new API connections they have?
I don't know.
Because that's the other thing is I told you I've connected it to Obsidian, so I don't even go into Obsidian anymore. I create all my notes from Claude.
I got to try that. That's so interesting.
Right. And so I've connected it to Gmail, my Google Drive, and my calendar. Now I've only connected it as a read only. What I want to do is set up the MCP server to write those documents. So I don't even so I don't have to even go into Google Drive anymore. I can just have it edit directly. That's one thing that I've got the instructions for, but I haven't done it yet. That's pretty. And then I also want to I've been meaning to connect to LinkedIn as well, but I still haven't done that.
I got to start playing with that whole agent thing. I've basically have no experience in that. I'm still just using it, just learning how to talk to it, which I hope that's going to be valuable because then when I use, hopefully the agent thing will be really fast to learn. I don't know.
Well, I mean, to some extent. So one of the things I find interesting is the company I'm working for right now, they expect everyone to make agents, but their idea of agents are more like personas.
Okay. Yeah.
Which to me, personas or custom GPTs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's not truly agents in the sense of how we're thinking of, creating workflows with N8N or using the MCP servers or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and they probably don't even know what they're talking. They're like, oh, just go make some agents. Yeah, go be more effective.
Well, first of all, Microsoft Copilot calls them agents. They don't call them custom GPTs.
Okay. GPT. Okay, maybe that's what they're getting. Yeah.
Right. But I'm like, they're somewhat powerful, but they don't do all the things that I can do right now with my own Claude server. And I'm like, oh yeah, I really want the ability to do this and this and that. And some of that they need to control. I get, they don't want to let people do this stuff. But some of it is like, oh, you're really kind of tying my hands here. You want me to use AI, but you're tying my hands.
Yeah, but I have a hunch, Chris, that the way we use AI is we're freaks in the AI world right now. It's like
and the problem is we surround ourselves with this kind of knowledge base.
Yeah, right.
The YouTube people and all. So every time I talk about like Nate Jones, he turned me on YouTube, and I talk about all his stuff, and maybe 1 in 20 people will bother to watch it, and then they'll and pay attention to it.
Yeah.
19 people don't even care. I mean, they're like, okay, whatever.
It's a different thing. I think I wonder how it's affecting my brain, because it's definitely affecting me, and I don't know how, and I don't even know how to measure it.
I think there's a default in thinking. It goes to the curiosity, it goes to the solutioning, but the idea is suddenly that, before it's like I can find out how to do anything. I go to the internet, I look it up. Yeah. I go to YouTube and there's a video on it. Now it's like I can do anything. I can ask AI and then it can go do it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I mean, that's just, first I got to come up with the idea, but now it's like I don't have to do the work. You don't just come up with the idea.
Yeah, which is interesting because I'm using it more for health stuff. Because as usual, I have a kind of a negative, opinion of doctors, and I probably shouldn't have so negative because I think 90% of them are idiots. It's like the bell curve, right? I mean, there's probably 10% that are. Really
so they're all smart enough to pass the exam, but you're right. There's a bell curve amongst educated people.
You don't have to be smart to be a doctor. All you have to do is just be.
I said to pass the exam, whatever that means.
Yeah, even
right?
even you don't need to be smart. You just need to grind through it. You just have to just
Hmm.
grind through it and memorize this stuff.
But so with any population, you got your bell curve.
You got
Yeah.
your bell curve actually. And then even if you take the smart ones, now they're so bound by the system. They've got to see 50 people a day. You only get 15 minutes. You've got to do this, you got to do that. And so I guess I'm cutting a little bit of slack, but here's what I can do, Chris, is now that information is not secret anymore. It's like using AI, I can get to all that information. And I can be as smart as my doctor, probably way smarter. Because I believe that my ability to think is much stronger than probably 99% of doctors.
And you are much more driven about your own health
Because it's my
than
foot
they
that's
are.
the problem. Yeah.
And not only that, you are putting more time into your specific issue than
Yeah.
they will ever have the time to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
really the idea is to come in there to tell them what you know,
Yeah. Right.
tell them whatever, and say, based upon this is how I'd like to approach this, and their job is to help you facilitate that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Before they were there to give you answers, now they're there to facilitate your plan.
Yeah, we're working this together actually. And so many doctors get crazy. It's like, oh my God, you looked it up on Google. And I'm like, okay, you need to understand something. I'm not your typical Google guy. I have ran this through 7 different AIs and Googled and spent 42 hours thinking about this. So don't lump me in with the Google guy, right? I'm a different animal. So
Well, this is the problem, right? So what needs to maybe you can get around some of that by saying, this is what I've done.
this is what I've done.
Like, you know, when you call into customer service and you got a problem and they say, did you try to restart your computer? Did you try to restart the app or whatever? It's like, so first thing I do, I can go and say, before you run through your script,
Yeah, right.
let me tell you everything that I've done.
Yeah, right.
And I go, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Can you escalate?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And then I'd say 60 to 70% of the time they can escalate.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes they still have to go through the script, right? There's no way around it because that's the rules.
That's just the
But usually, if you get a guy who actually knows their job, they go, oh, okay, yeah, all right, you've done all those things. Let's go on to the next thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I go see my doctor this coming up next Friday. And what I got is I went and got all my images for my foot. And so basically in a 30-minute chat with Grok, it told me this is probably what you have. He goes, this is the things you want to measure. And so I think my arch is declining, but it told me how to go look at side views and draw a line from this and measure the angle. And what you'll probably see is that that angle is declining. And so what you need is support underneath your arch to support that to get back to this angle.
That's also pretty much age, though, right? Our arches go down with age.
Yeah, but it's this thing called Liz Frank that has to do with it. And so then it's not supporting and that causes other problems. But I mean, just the fact, Chris, in 30 minutes that I know this, I mean, that information a year ago would have been invisible to me.
So there's a positive and a negative, and you're focusing on the positive. Let me just bring up the negative real quick because I know you're aware of it, but I want to make sure that we're clear. So anyone who's listening, the negative, of course, is any additional context around it that might be relevant.
Yes.
Right. So you've gone 30 minutes in, you know this topic, you understand it, you understand probably how it relates to you.
A little
but there may be
bit, yeah.
there may be elements around the fringes that contextually could change your understanding.
Oh, absolutely.
That aren't part of that conversation.
Yeah.
Right. So that would be but you're aware of that. So you're aware that that's a possibility.
People need to know for a fact that's going to happen.
People need to understand that just because they understand a piece of information doesn't mean they understand the entire scenario of that situation.
No. So for me, what I've done is I've scheduled out appointments beforehand. Like I'm going to this thing called Snell that builds all the shoes and everything. And I'm going to meet with them before. I'm going to say, hey, this is what I know. But then, so in my point, every step along this way, I gain more and more information. So by the time I get to the doctor, I should have at least an initial cut of some kind of understanding.
So like for me, for shoes, I've got several different inserts.
Yeah.
One I got years ago from my chiropractor. And then I also have the flat shoes, the barefoot shoes, the ones that don't have any support on them. And I just kind of go through different shoes on different days of the week, more to keep my feet, tired, I guess, or to work them.
Yeah.
So some days I'll use a really high arch, and then at the end of the day, my arch will be sore because it was so high.
Oh, interesting.
Other days I'll use no arch,
Yeah.
and then and so I'm kind of the opinion that you need to change things up so your feet are always
Well, that may or may
working.
not be right. You have to probably test that to see if that's actually the right thing to do or not, you know?
So it used to be I would always wear different arches,
Yeah.
and some days it really for if you're on your feet a lot, if you're walking a lot,
Yeah.
that really seemed to help me kind of get through the day.
Mhm.
So, but if I'm not walking a lot, I'm not on my feet a lot, then what I find is kind of letting the toe box open up and let your
Yeah.
toes spread out seem to be a good thing.
Yeah.
But what I find is in those days, 'cause particularly those shoes having very little softness to them, very little heel, that the impact gets to my knees quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
So, but I think everything's a trade-off. So if it's getting to my knees, that means I can't do as much walking overall.
Yeah.
But I think it's having a different impact on my feet. So I kind of switch it up based upon what I know I'm going to do for the day.
Well, it could be. I mean, that could be totally like a totally bad strategy. So you got to somehow evaluate whether that works or not, you know?
And so what I find out is foot pain I rarely have. I almost never have foot pain.
Yeah, right. It's in your knee because the knee is the weak point of the system.
The knee is my weak point, yes.
Yeah, exactly. But it starts at the feet, though.
Well, in my case, I have a bad knee,
Yeah.
right? So I think even even no matter what I do, even if I'm perfect with my feet, it's still going to impact my knee.
Well,
Question is how quickly it impacts the
how
knee.
quickly? Yeah, because ultimately this is pure physics, right? This is completely modelable. In fact, what I was thinking about doing, Chris, because I'm so psycho, I because I'm learning about load cells right now when I'm going back to like basic physics and everything. I was wondering if I could like 3D print like a series of load cells in my feet, because the problem is all the measurements, even at the doctor's office, even in the x-ray, everything is static. But I mean, this is a dynamic system that's moving. So what if I could have like 30 load cells in my shoe, and so I could literally model across time, like videotaping myself so it could see how my foot's moving and tracking that load cell and seeing how the force changes across time, and then design a support based on that instead of static.
So you know the soul company, Dr. Scholl's or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So I remember in CVS they used to have a thing you would stand on,
Yeah.
and it could tell where on your foot pad the pressure was,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then it would recommend an insert based upon that.
Correct. Right.
So you want that, but you want to be able to do it while walking.
I want to do it dynamic because static is very different than dynamic forces. Very different. But here's the thing, Chris. Here's how it connects up to my foot, right? If I wouldn't have in the past couple of weeks been studying fundamental physics, I never would have even considered that static versus dynamic forces are different. So all of a sudden, because of my study in different domain, it now comes back to my foot.
Are different. The yes and no, right? Because at the high level, it's measuring the same thing. But what you're saying is because you're moving, because you're picking up changes in movement, that you're able to actually measure the impact in a different way.
Well, the force is not static. It's like if you do heel to tail, the force is going to change as your foot.
But in theory, it's the same thing. You're just measuring force across your foot.
Yeah, right. Across time, though.
Yeah.
It's different than just standing still and then measuring, because the forces will be different as
But
they
when you say
move.
it's different in the impact on the foot.
The vectors of the force are going to be changing dynamically.
Yeah. Okay. But what is the value of the difference is what I'm getting.
Because if I provide an optimal solution, assuming that my foot is static, it's probably going to be a better answer if I cross time. How does my foot move across time, and how do the forces shift, right?
So when you said different, I was thinking standing versus walking is different. And therefore, if you understood the forces on your foot from one versus the other, there's a difference. There's a benefit in understanding that, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
You were getting at like the physics of the situation are different because in movement I got different vectors, and I'm like, yeah, I didn't care about that difference, even though you're right, that is a different thing.
The forces.
I was kind of going at, well, why do you care that it's different?
Because my solution may be more optimized, right? Because
Yeah. Okay. And so this is interesting because you were talking about the difference at a more core level. I was talking about the difference at the kind of the
okay,
result level.
we got to dig into this more because that's interesting what you're saying. But
And so I didn't disagree with anything you said, but
yeah.
that's not where my focus was.
Oh, see, that's
I wasn't in
the
the
focus.
mechanics of it. I was in, so what?
Oh, so what? Oh, yeah. So what equals engineer? I can have a better solution, actually.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So we reversed roles. I was the engineer and you were the scientist.
yeah, exactly. But here's the thing, though, Chris. My point is, and I'll repeat it for the second time, is that if I wouldn't have gone down this rabbit hole reading the Feynman stuff, this idea never would have popped into my head. I'm like, oh, I got to model a system both static and dynamic.
Really? I would have thought, because I would have thought you would have thought about that.
Maybe, or maybe I wouldn't have tied it together because when I go to Snell, when everybody measures stuff, it's all done statically. Nothing's done dynamically. So I'm assuming, oh,
But
that's
but
the
if
answer.
but if you go to first principles on the situation,
Yeah, right.
I need a shoe that supports my foot.
Yeah, right.
Great.
Yeah.
That's a great first level approximation of
Yes,
what it
right.
is, right? But when you go into detail, what am I doing with my feet?
Yeah,
Well, I'm walking.
of course we walk. Yeah, right. We walk. We
Is
run.
yeah. Is walking the same as standing? Is that the same as jumping? Is that the same as squatting? Is
They're
that the
all-
same as right? And then suddenly you're like, oh, are we measuring for all those things?
Yeah, we measure. Right.
Right. And so to me, it's very much if you went to first principles and really we're asking first principles questions.
Yes.
Those things would have come to light.
Yes, but here's the thing, though, Chris. I can always say I need to go to first principles, but I don't know what the first principles are because I don't have domain expertise in that area. And so here's my point, right? Even just a few hours now improved my thinking dramatically. It's not like I need a degree in physics. Just a few hours is all I need.
So this is one thing why I think a wide breadth of knowledge is critical.
Yes, right.
Because the first time you learn anything, if you don't know anything to start with, you've got to go deep to understand it. You've got to understand complexities between pieces of information that you've got.
Yeah.
The second time, you're able to leverage a little bit of that so you don't have to learn quite as much.
Yeah.
The 100th time, you're able to just hit the highlights and you've got a framework of how the world works in other scenarios that you can leverage.
Yeah.
So this is why over time it becomes easier to think critically because you've got more of a framework of having thought critically in the past.
More framework, right. But here's how I'm going to connect the dots for you, right? Thinking, oh, I've been doing 3D printing. And I know there's a material called TPU that's soft. They can print tires. I'm like, ooh, I could actually laser scan my foot, build an insert for that. Then I started learning about load cells. I'm like, oh crap, you know what I could do is I could integrate an array of load cells. And I wouldn't have known that unless I went down the electronic route. And then I'm like, oh my God, I could literally put a tiny little microcontroller that communicates to my phone through Bluetooth for like $10 actually. I just learned that 2 weeks ago. So now all of a sudden, I'm like, I could literally make this thing in my studio. And I would have never had this thought 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. It never would have crossed my mind. It would have been invisible to me. But it's like now because I'm doing cross-domain stuff, I can get a solution for this. And that's why I'm saying the electronics is going to tie to AI in some way. I don't fully see the connections now, but I believe that they're there and I'll see them.
So Scott, again, back to a quote that I like is, you don't need to think outside the box. You just need a bigger box. You've got a bigger box.
I got a bigger box. Yes.
That includes electronics. That includes AI. That includes, 3D printing. That includes all of that.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, I wonder if there's something in 3D printing that would work, you start with, there's something in 3D printing that might work here. You actually have a different mindset. So suddenly, instead of having to kind of, I want to say, stretch to an area beyond your understanding, you start with just more understanding.
More understanding. Yeah, exactly.
Right? Which now gets you further along a path towards a solution than if you had to go figure out 3D printing.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so everything's sort of like a little here, a little there. Everything just kind of comes together slowly over time.
This is why I love the exercise when someone asks a question about something. I don't care what it is. Before you go look it up on the internet, do you have enough knowledge in your brain to estimate, guesstimate, figure out what you think that is?
Yeah, right.
All right. And quite often you do.
Yeah.
Well, I know this is where this works that way, and I've seen people do this, and I know there's a job called this, and you just start putting all these things together, and you go, "Hey, that would be interesting."
Yeah.
So, in your case, you're creating a medical device that would measure your gait, that would measure your pressure, that would measure, how your foot moves. Because maybe what you want to do is train someone to walk around the outside of their foot instead of the
Yeah.
inside of their foot.
Possibly. Right.
You want them to stroll in a different manner. You want their gait to change, right? There's all kinds of things that you could do with a medical device that's now measurable, that you can have an app that gives you real-time data,
Yeah.
that you could tie to your Aura Ring and your Apple Health and all that stuff. And now you've got an AI that will examine your gait
Yes.
and say, oh,
Yep.
you are a 200-pound, 5.5-foot tall male in their 50s, and you're putting too much, and you got bad knees.
Yeah. Right.
And the way you're walking is putting more strain on it.
Yeah.
You need to adjust. I mean, think about how hard that's going to be to learn to walk differently. But if you don't know you need to walk differently, you're never going to do it.
Yeah, but here's the thing though, Chris, is I've done jujitsu for a few years, right? And what that means is I know through repetition that my body will adapt to anything I train it. I just gotta force it and keep enough, just like braces, keep enough pressure there where it just gets built in.
You could make a game about balance
Yes.
that uses those sensors.
Yes.
And you have it open on your phone, and it teaches you how to better balance. So
Yes.
stand on one leg,
Yes.
and and you could see, oh, that would be so cool.
It's like
Because they had that
biofeedback,
on the old Wii Fit board that you could
Yeah.
stand on, and you had to stand and keep the center of balance in a certain spot.
Yeah.
You could do that. I mean, and
Yeah.
work on people's balance.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
cool.
That's exactly right. And see, now that's yeah, so this is all coming from this. So I'm starting to become this polymath person that I want to be.
So you start by making a medical device. You make it in-house. It's going to be expensive in the first few.
Yeah.
You figure it out, and then you can start figuring out, do you stay in the medical space market, or do you turn it into something, you try to gamify it, or what are you trying to do with it? I mean, because
Here's my outcome, Chris. I'm trying to fix my foot. That's it. And this is the classic garage story. It's like, oh, I looked everywhere for a solution. I couldn't find it, so I had to make it myself. That's the classic marketing thing, right? Started in my garage.
So I'm thinking of this Soul that has got a battery in it that's has a USB-C charger so you can charge this battery.
Yeah.
It lasts for a week or a month or whatever when you charge it.
Yeah.
You've got your sensors built into it, and you got a Bluetooth connection to your phone.
Yeah.
Your phone has an app that does all these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And
you put an API to Apple Health. Apple Health now tracks this information.
Yeah.
And
Claude will write the code for me, right? I got AI that'll do all the heavy lifting for me.
And then and once you've got an MVP product out there that you can sell, then you can afford to hire someone to clean up the code and make it better.
Yeah, right. Clean it up if I want to sell it. But right now, that's not my thought. I don't know that I want to sell it, But I'm still, man, I'm telling you, Elon Musk is still in my head, right? Because right now my objective is, oh, can you hear me, Chris? Looks like you're frozen up. Oh, there you are. You're back. Because I just, man, that dude's voice is in my head. He's like, there's a lot of really smart people just trying to get people to click on emails. And that's my core business, right? Just hacking their dopamine to get them click. And he's like, why don't you actually go solve a real problem, or solve something that's going to move humanity forward? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, but if you can't get people to click on it, then it doesn't matter if you solve it.
Yeah.
Right. Part of the problem that scientists and ultra intelligent people have, and intelligent here meaning book learning scientific intelligence, is they don't have the wherewithal to be able to understand how to market it, how to get it out there, how to get people to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
So this is where, in the past, science would go out and give grants to people. They would apply for these grants, but it's become too political. It's become too whatever. The industry of science is now an industry and not just a practice. And so I think that is part of the problem. When you think about it, all the famous chefs out there that have multiple restaurants and restaurant empires, most of them usually have a business manager who goes along with the chef to balance out their skill set. It's rare that you have someone who's got both sets of skills.
No.
And that's what you're talking about here, is the guy who can get the clicks is not usually the guy who figures out the hard solution to a problem.
Yeah, and I remember too, even your voice is in my head, because I remember you saying that you're taking all this knowledge and you're narrowing it down just to get people to click on emails. And it's like you were almost doing the same thing Musk was doing. Like maybe your purpose is bigger than that, I don't know. But I got to tell you, getting people to click on emails will pay very well. I'll make a lot of
Well,
money doing that.
Attention,
Yeah.
right? We need attention. Attention is what gets what drives resources.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if whether those resources are for your own pocket or for some bigger goal or whatever, without attention, the thing is, you get someone like an Elon Musk. If you can get his attention, he's got the resources to throw at anything to make to move it along.
Oh my
Right.
gosh. Yeah.
But so the question is, maybe the point is to get his attention as opposed to getting, a million people to pay attention to you and give you $1 each.
Could be. Well, you can do it. Both ways work, right? You can do one dude for $1 million or 1 million people for $1 each, right? It's just it's.
But how do you get someone's attention is going to be the critical thing.
Well, you have to understand that animal, because everybody will take some kind of bait. You just got to figure out what bait they want.
Yeah, and that's a totally different mindset and skill set than someone who's trying to solve some kind of a scientific problem out there or health problem out there. Yeah, their problem is understanding the problem, or their issue is understanding the problem and how to solve for it.
Yeah.
Right. And they're not thinking about the problem of getting someone's attention.
Yeah, it's a different skill set. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's fast.
The high level framework on how to solve it's probably the same. You identify the problem and engineer a solution.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's a different, like you said, it's a different knowledge base. It's a different set of skills. It's a different. So if it's something you don't know, so this is where it becomes critical to find someone who does know how to do that and hire them to do it.
Yeah.
The problem is everyone realizes this is how you make money, so everyone's got an idea on how to do that right now.
That's how you do it.
Because attention and focus, that's where money is.
Yeah,
right?
attention, focus,
clicks and death. Not this. What is it? Doom scrolling.
Yeah.
Are where the money's at.
I know it's horrible though, but then I think, what is my purpose? Like, what is my reason for being on the planet? And this is where having faith is helpful for me. It's like, what job was I supposed to do? And it's not to make money. It's supposed to help people in some way. And so I'm constantly torn with that as well too. Like, how can I help people? How can I fix a problem? How can I solve something for them? And it's like sort of a built-in like calling. It's like it just doesn't feel right. I'm made to do more than just get people to click on links and emails. I'm supposed to do more than that.
Now, where on Maslow's hierarchy of needs is connection with other people?
I don't know, probably to the top, self-actualization or whatever that very top.
Self-actualization's above that, I think, but the need for connection with others is one of the needs.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
The reason why I say that is because it feels like when you want to help others, there's a tie into that, right? So there's a human need to connect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And I think in Western / Christian, Judeo-Christian society, there's this expectation of helping communal good.
Because that makes me feel good. There's for me, it's just, there's something that makes sense. It's like,
do other cultures have this? I don't think they don't. I'm not sure what feeling good societally is connecting with others means in other societies.
That I don't
Sometimes
know.
it's just family. It's like I protect my family. I've got a big family. My family's all that matters. Screw the rest of society.
Yeah, right.
Or my tribe potentially even could be the same type of thing.
Yeah, right.
We've got a Western viewpoint that somehow is like a bigger society thing. And right now we're going tribal. We're actually bringing it back down in size.
Yeah.
Where it's my tribe and not my society. But it seems to me like Western culture, heavily influenced by Judeo-Christian values and how that's evolved over time, is where we get this idea that we have a duty to help society. And I think that's tied to our desire and need for connection.
Could be connection, but it also is that it's good for me, because if I feel like if I help the group, then the group will help me. So there's a little bit of there's a bit of selfishness in it as well too, you know?
Yes, but that's the idea of understanding that we all have this responsibility to our tribe, to our family.
Yeah. Like for what you're doing, you're speaking in Toastmasters is getting better and better. And that is putting a desire into me that I need to get better and better. Now, I haven't acted on it yet, but just the fact that you're getting better means that I'm going to get better, which means that everybody gets better, which is cool.
It looks like connection with others is the third level. So I'm looking at a pyramid with 5 levels: physiological needs, safety needs, love and belonging, esteem, and then self-actualization.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is kind of like, this is what I was made to do. This is I'm now doing God's mission, which is super satisfying.
So I think that's the love and belonging.
All right. Well, it looks like Chris went away. This is probably a good time to end the podcast. So when Chris comes back, we'll wrap it up. And that'll be it if he does come back. So anyways, if anybody's watching, like, subscribe, come on the show. We'd love to have you on. Leave a comment. We'll wait for Chris to come back and we'll quickly wrap things up. And what do you guys think? We kind of went deep on some subjects today. Okay, that's it. We are going to close the conversation out. See you next time.